Get ready to reimagine the future of humanity and unlock your true potential. Welcome to Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours, hosted by Dr. David Gruder, an internationally renowned integrative psychologist, human potential expert, author, and social change catalyst, as he delves into the most urgent issues of our time. With the world facing unprecedented challenges and social and political divides growing deeper, it's time to take action. Each episode of this groundbreaking series will empower you with invaluable insights, strategies, and tools to heal these divisions and restore personal freedom and societal well-being. Whether you're a concerned citizen, a courageous leader, an influential figure, or an ambitious entrepreneur, Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours will guide you on a transformative journey. Discover your unique role in creating a brighter future for yourself and society at large. Dr. David Gruder will draw upon his extensive knowledge and experience to provide practical solutions for shaping the world we live in. With his passionate exploration of social change, he will help you navigate through the complexities of our time and inspire you to make a meaningful impact. So, prepare yourself for an eye-opening experience as we delve deep into the heart of the matter. Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours will challenge your perspectives, ignite your imagination, and equip you with the tools you need to reimagine and redefine the world around you. The time to transform our future is now. Join us on this incredible journey and enter a new era of possibility. For more information on Dr. David Gruder and the Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours, visit www.rhfy.ca. Welcome to Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours, where together, we create a brighter tomorrow. Now, here is the host of Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours, Dr. David Gruder.
Welcome back to the Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours show on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. I'm your host, Dr. David Gruder, the polymath of human potential, societal psychotherapist, and futurist, who equips leading-edge leaders, influencers, helping professionals, and you with vital resources that make it possible for humanity's most spiritually elevated future to at last emerge. The title of this episode is Reimagining Humanity's Evolution, Accelerating the Emergence of Homo Spiritus in Our Lifetime. I'm about to unveil material that I believe is so urgent and personal that I haven't invited a guest for this episode. It will be between just you and me. We are living in what I believe is the most pivotal moment in our lifetimes, and quite possibly since the dawn our dawn as the species Homo Sapiens. We are undergoing a metamorphosis into a new species. Because of this, I don't view the chaos, divisiveness, stress, burnout, and planetary breakdown going on everywhere so much as signs of collapse, as I see those struggles as being the labor pains of our next species trying to be born, which I call Homo Spiritus, human spirits, and I'll unpack more about that in this episode. Over the past 2 decades, I've been mapping exactly how this transition is unfolding at the individual and collective levels, and distilling this clarity into a practical, all-purpose, customizable framework to make this metamorphosis easier. I call it the Spark Blueprint for Transcendent Human Potential. And SPARK is an acronym that ends in the letter C rather than the letter K. People around the world are using it to awaken core capacities that distinguish Homo Spiritus from Homo Sapiens. In this episode, I'm pulling the curtain all the way back to provide you with ways to more deeply understand why the symptoms that are stressing us the most today are better viewed as evolutionary catalysts rather than as dead ends heralding a dystopian future. What makes Homo Spiritus vastly different from Homo Sapiens, a blueprint that turns timeless spiritual freedom into durable self-sovereignty and yields real-world solutions that build psycho-spiritually healthy societies, and immediate next steps you can take toward embodying Homo Spiritus through a free gift I'll tell you about toward the end of this episode, and next steps you can take based on that gift. If you believe in your bones that humanity is destined for a far more enlightened future than our current operating system allows, and if you recognize that technology must remain our tool instead of becoming the boss of us, I believe you're going to gain a lot from this episode. In fact, I'm guessing you'll discover that this provides the vision and roadmap you've been waiting for. So without further ado, let's dive into a journey from symptoms to root causes to what to look for in a solution to my version of that solution. In this first segment, we'll look at the symptoms that not enough of us recognize are indications that we are alchemizing into a new species. But first, I'll offer a little about how I initially became a futurist. I grew up on the high functioning end of the autism spectrum. I didn't know how the world worked. And by the time I was 10 years old, I had decided that my parents didn't either. So I took it upon myself to figure that out for them, for my brother, and for myself. I also felt that doing this was too daunting at 10 years old to be able to succeed. So in my mind's eye, I regularly called out silently to ETs, to extraterrestrials, which I read as a child, everything that I could get my hands on the subject of life beyond Earth. And in my mind's eye, I was pleading with them to take me away from here. Well, to the best of my knowledge, that didn't happen. What did happen instead was that a vision was sparked in me as a result of attending the 1964-65 New York World's Fair when I was ages 10 and 11, where the seeds for becoming a futurist were planted. Of course, I didn't know it at that time, but in fact, I still have a pin I got there at the New York World's Fair, which says, "I have seen the future." At 12, I became an instant fan of the original Star Trek series because it showed me a version of the future that deeply resonated within me. And that vision continued to crystallize over the 10 years that followed until I was blessed with being trained as a futurist through what became my favorite history course as an undergraduate. It was, I forget if it was called Survey of the Future or History of the Future, but either way, that was the focus of that course. In this episode's next segment, we'll get into root causes of today's chronic chaos, divisiveness, stress, burnout, and planetary breakdown. But first, as I already said, I want to offer a framing that hopefully helps you make more sense of those symptoms. Did you know that 75% of people identify themselves as chronically stressed today? And 77% of people in the United States identify themselves as being stressed about the future of the United States. Well, I have a term for this, not only in the United States, but in many other places around the world. I have come to call it societal traumatic stress disorder instead of post-traumatic stress disorder, which is a psychological diagnosis for individuals. Societal traumatic stress disorder, STSD, is a dysfunctional triad that includes confused countries, confused individuals, and confused leaders. I call the collective version fractured nation syndrome. Its symptoms include deep divisiveness that tears the social fabric and cripples governance, manifesting as isolationist tribalism, symptom suppressing band-aids, and ideologically driven coercion. I call the individual version of societal traumatic stress disorder floundering citizen syndrome. Its symptoms include deep uncertainty about the evolutionary leap humanity is undergoing, confusion about one's own role in that, and a resulting spiral into outraged rebellion without vision or numbed out, helpless escapism. I call the leader and influencer version of STSD, hollow helm syndrome. Its symptoms include deep uncertainty about where the evolutionary leap humanity is undergoing is taking us, and confusion about how to guide that leap, leading to shrinking from power or wielding it in inflammatory, authoritarian, or performative ways. Well, what's fueling STSD? We're chronically stressed collectively, individually, and as leaders or influencers because we don't recognize the shadow adaptation spiral we're under. I'll say a little bit more about that in a moment. We don't realize we're rising into a new species beyond Homo sapiens and are choosing between two versions of this new species, or we're instead trying to go back to a distorted version of our past. We don't have a compelling picture of the elevated future our new species will bring about. And we don't have a framework for helping such a future emerge in ourselves and in how we impact the world around us. Now, a little bit more about what fuels the shadow adaptation spell. We have a gift of being able to adapt to a wide variety of circumstances and situations, and that capacity for adaptation is golden, except when it's not. When shadow adaptation is what that's about, is using our gift of adaptation to adapt to the unacceptable. And in this case, in today's world, too many of us have accepted faulty formulas for happiness, health, prosperity, patriotism, and problem solving. And I've discussed those previously, so I'm not going to go into detail about this other than to say briefly that the faulty formula for happiness is thinking that materialism is what buys us happiness. And there's nothing wrong with loving things and wealth and adventure and all of that. Nothing wrong with that at all. But thinking that materialism is what will make us happy is a big problem. The faulty formula for health is symptom control of chronic conditions is health. I don't think so. The faulty formula for prosperity is debtism, not capitalism. Or certainly sociopathic versions of capitalism would be a faulty formula. But debtism is what poses as capitalism today, and debtism is borrowing against an uncertain future in order to prop up a lifestyle in the present. Faulty formulas for patriotism, where we confuse patriotism with narcissism, national narcissism, and faulty formulas for problem solving, where we try to go for compromise, which chronic compromise leads to the even worse alternative, which is coercion. And these are faulty formulas for problem solving. Well, the rest of this episode is going to dive into the root causes of the symptoms of societal traumatic stress disorder that I just described, and what to look for in a solution and my version of that solution. After a short break, I will expose what I have come to view as the root causes of species traumatic stress disorder. And those symptoms have to do with the three futures that we're currently choosing between, whether we know it or not. And so I'm going to unpack what those three alternative futures are. And after that, in the segment after the coming one, I'll go into detail about what to look for in the way of a solution to these problems. So I'm Dr. David Gruder. This is the Reimagining Humanity's Future in Your show on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, and we will be back momentarily. Welcome back. Before the break, I discussed the dysfunctional triad comprising species traumatic stress disorder: fractured nation syndrome, floundering citizen syndrome, and hollow helm syndrome. In this segment, as you already know, I'm going to delve into under-recognized root causes of STSD and its symptoms. So, what's fueling STSD? Well, I'm going to build on what I said before the break, which was that we're chronically stressed collectively and individually and as leaders and influencers because we don't recognize the shadow adaptation spell we're under. We don't have a compelling, I have a dream picture of our next species or trust that this elevated future can emerge. And we don't realize the uniquely impactful role we can play, each of us, in helping that happen. Well, why don't we have this clarity? Well, it's because we don't fully recognize the three futures that are currently vying for dominance. I call them regressionism, homo machina, or what's more commonly called transhumanism, and Homo Spiritus, which is among some also called Homo luminous. So, regressionism is the desire to return to an idealized, sanitized, revisionist version of the past that mostly focuses on rugged individualism. And the regressionism version of the future is just simply impossible. We aren't going to go backward, and the notion of what regressionists want to go backward to isn't possible anyway, because, as I said, it's a distorted version of the past. It's a version of the past that selectively focuses on things that were delicious about our past while selectively pretending that the shadow aspects, the dysfunctional aspects of our past didn't exist, or justifying saying, well, that's just the price we have to pay for returning to this idealized, sanitized, revisionist version of the past. Well, on the other hand, there's gold in the regressionism version of the future that, as I said, can't happen, but there's still gold that's worthy of bringing forward into our future. And that gold is that a lot of regressionists really understand that self-governance is a crucial part of freedom in a free society. And self-governance needs to be brought forward into our future. Regressionists also focus on ethics and morality that is underneath the ideological spin or the culture or religion specific articulations of those things. It reflects universal, timeless values, virtues, and ethics. And those timeless, universal values, virtues, and ethics do deserve to be brought forward into the future. The version of the future that could unfold, unlike regressionism, which people, as I said, are trying to do, at least some people are, even though it's not possible. It's not going to happen. But one of two versions of the future that could happen is, as I said, what I call homo machina and that others call transhumanism. And what that is the 21st century version of serfdom, of being basically slaves. And there are multiple versions of this, including the World Economic Forum's version, Putin's version, China's version, but they all boil down to the same thing, which is that a small group of uber powerful and usually uber wealthy people think they're smarter than higher love, wisdom, and power. They're smarter than God, if you will, and that they are entitled to determine the future for the rest of us. And that version of the future that they feel entitled to determine positions us as commodities, human beings as commodities that are the strange hybrid of biology and cybernetics, of biology and technology, and where we're going to be persuaded that that version of our future is good for us and is going to make us happy, and all of those nasty propaganda techniques to get us buy into a transhumanist future. On the other hand, there's also gold in the Homo Machina transhumanist version of the future, just like there is gold in the regressionist version of the future that I already went over. The gold in the transhumanism or Homo Machina, human machine version of the future understands that technology is not going to go away. I mean, barring some kind of cataclysmic planet-wide breakdown of all technology, that's technology is going to continue. And the gold in the transhumanist perspective is that actually technology is neutral, and it will continue to emerge and expand unless we completely self-destruct. But transhumanism's version of how to use that technology is, in my judgment, dysfunctional and is going to bring about a version of the future that is harmful to humanity rather than the version that I believe we're intended to emerge into. And that is the third version of the future, these three versions of the future that are currently vying for dominance. And that is what I call a Homo Spiritus future, that, as I mentioned before, some call it Homo Luminous. There isn't a standardized name yet for this version of the future, but it's a version of the future in which we humans become worldly conduits of higher love, wisdom, and power, who embody spiritual self-sovereignty that serves us all by harmonizing personal freedom, which my term for that is self-sovereignty, with the common good, which I call societal and planetary well-being. And the distinction here between Homo sapiens and Homo luminous is that Homo sapiens are human animals. We may have higher aspirations, but we are limited by our animal nature. And Homo Spiritus doesn't deny that we're in bodies. It recognizes that we're in bodies, but it doesn't buy into the notion that our biology is the boss of us. We have biological urges and biological tendencies and instincts and things like that that we need to remain fully awake about, conscious of, and the boss of. Whereas Homo sapiens are essentially victims of our biology. In Homo Spiritus, we are worldly conduits of something higher, whatever your version of spirit source, whatever your version of higher love, wisdom, and power happens to be. And we are in bodies, but our bodies are not the boss of us. They are the instruments through which we are those worldly conduits, where we finally accomplish the highest goals of free societies. And that highest goal has been forgotten in a lot of circles, which is to harmonize personal freedom or self-sovereignty with the common good, societal and planetary well-being. Whereas in the old mindset, that doesn't reflect the highest ideals of a free society. One is more important than the other. Some groups make personal freedom more important than the common good. Others make the common good more important than personal freedom. Both of those groups are denying the actual challenge of free societies, which is the harmonizing of those two poles, because we are fundamentally social beings. So we're social beings with free will. So we have to somehow harmonize our free will, our personal freedom, with the fact that we're designed to be in societies, to be in groups, because we're social beings. So What is Homo Spiritus's gold? Well, it incorporates the gold in regressionism and in transhumanism. So the gold in regressionism, again, is these transcendent values and virtues and ethics. And the gold in transhumanism is the technology. That technology is valuable. So Homo Spiritus's gold is incorporating transcendent values, virtue, and ethics to ensure that technology serves those things instead of technology becoming the boss of us. And Homo Spiritus's focus is to help us leap into the most elevated future that we can possibly have, as far as I'm able to tell, as a futurist. And that future is what many people refer to as heaven on earth. And if you don't resonate with a heaven metaphor, it's the stage beyond what those of you who know about the notion of self actualization, which was a term coined in the mid 1900s by the father of the human potential movement, or at least one of the prominent fathers of the human potential movement, Abraham Maslow, who called our highest level of human need self actualization. Well, what people who know about self actualization generally don't know is that toward the end of Abraham Maslow's life, he started to talk about a stage beyond self actualization, which he called self transcendence. And Homo Spiritus is self transcendence. It's not abandoning being human beings, but where we're greater than just ourselves. So after another short break, we'll get into the heart of the matter, which is what to look for in a solution that helps a Homo Spiritus future emerge. I'm Dr. David Gruder. This is the Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours show on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, and we will continue momentarily. And we're back. Before the break, I delved into less recognized but vitally important root causes of species traumatic stress disorder, which have to do with not fully recognizing that we're in the process of choosing which future we are going to adopt as our next species. The regressionist version, as I mentioned, which is not possible, the Homo machina or transhumanist version of the future, which is possible and from my perspective is not desirable, and the Homo Spiritus or Homo luminous future that, in my perspective as a futurist, is the desirable future. And as I mentioned in this segment, I'm going to reveal ingredients to look for when you've decided, if you decide this, that becoming Homo Spiritus is for you. So, what ingredients should you look for? Should nations and communities and businesses and citizens and leaders and influencers and helping professionals like clergy, psychotherapists, coaches, educators, what should we all be looking for when we want a Homo Spiritus future to be the version of the future that prevails among the three versions of the future that are vying for dominance right now? Well, from my perspective, a solution needs to include the following things. It needs to provide us with ways to get free from our shadow adaptation spell, the societal and personal spells that block our vision of what's really possible for our future and block our power to actualize that best possible future. A solution needs to include clarity about a highly compelling, I have a dream picture of our next species. A solution needs to include clarity about how this elevated future can emerge and clarity about what each of our unique roles in helping that future happen are: a solution needs to include ways to identify and build our capacities that equip us to actualize our role in that highly compelling I have a dream picture of our next species and of the future. And a solution should include ways to amplify our impact with the capacities that we're elevating so that we can fulfill our unique role in helping that future happen. In addition, that framework, that solution should be so integrated and so all purpose and practical and so fully customizable to each of us and to each needs, from our individual development to relationships, to our communities, to businesses, to nations, to all of humanity and the planet. So fully customizable for all of those purposes and so step-by-step implementable, so clear roadmap, that it can be mastered once and then used for everything. Again, by individuals, communities, businesses, educators, also including media and influencers, helping professionals, clergy, coaches, and psychotherapists, and government officials, elected and appointed, in addition to hired civil service employees. My version of this solution for effectively transitioning from Homo sapiens to Homo Spiritus is what I call the Spark Blueprint. And again, as I said at the top of this episode, SPARK is an acronym, an anachronism. Yeah, it is an anachronism. An acronym that is SPARC. So the final letter in SPARK, in the SPARK Blueprint, is the letter C rather than the letter K. And I'll unpack for you what those 5 ingredients in the SPARK Blueprint are, because they're my version of the solution that I just described that is going to enable a Homo Spiritus future to emerge in each of us individually and all of us collectively. So the S in Spark is shatter spells. The S stands for shatter. Shatter the spells that block us from being able to picture an enlightened future, a truly expansive future for humanity and ourselves, and to trust that that future can actually emerge. The P in Spark is about picturing what that future is. And picturing that future requires that we understand what I unpacked in the last segment about the 3 futures that are vying for dominance right now. The regressionist version of the future, that, as I continue to say, even though some people are pursuing it, it just can't happen because it's a delusional version of the past anyway, sanitized, idealized. The Homo Machina, transhumanist version of the future, which, as you've heard me say, I believe as a futurist is not in humanity's best interests to adopt, and the Homo Spiritus or Homo Luminous version of the future. So to be able to picture the future we want by understanding the versions of the future that are vying for dominance right now. So that's the P in Spark, picture the future. The A in Spark is align your dual-pronged purpose with that future that you want to see emerge. So each of us has a role in helping humanity's best future emerge, and obviously a role in helping our own best future emerge. And that role is unique to each of us because none of us can do all of what's needed for our best future to emerge. However, when each of us is doing our appointed unique part in helping that future emerge, collectively, all bases that need to be covered get covered so that that future can emerge. What do I mean by dual-pronged purpose? Well, in the purpose-based world, most purpose-based training systems focus on one aspect of our higher purpose, of our calling, which is what I refer to as our impact mission, the aspect of our purpose that has to do with the impact, the influence that we are uniquely called to have in our spheres of influence. But there's another purpose that is just as important and is meant to dance with our impact mission, our impact purpose. And I call that other purpose, the other part of our dual-pronged purpose, our soul growth mission. So as I see it as a psychologist, all of us are called to grow and develop and become more fully who we are through over the course of our lifetime, to develop into, in my bias, Homo Spiritus. And so we each have a soul growth mission. We have a theme that, whether we know it or not, carries across the span of our lifetime, because it's that big, it's that audacious, that it's going to take, at the very least, the better part of our lifetime to fully master in chapters, in gradual unfoldment. And that soul growth mission dances with our impact mission. They need each other, meaning that our soul growth mission, we need to be moving forward with that in order to actualize our impact mission. And actualizing our impact mission is meant to help us emerge more fully into our soul growth mission. So the A in Spark is align your dual-pronged purpose, our soul growth and impact missions. Once we're clear about our dual-pronged purpose in helping our desired future emerge, then we're in a position to focus on the R in the Spark Blueprint, which stands for rise. Rise your capacities to actualize your calling. So this is where, when we've got that clarity about our purpose, then we are in a position to identify which capacities we need to elevate, each of us individually, uniquely need to elevate in order to fully live our dual-pronged purpose, our calling. And then the A, C rather, in Spark, is to collaborate with others so that we amplify our impact with the capacities that we've developed in order to actualize our dual-pronged purpose in helping that future emerge. This should sound very, very common sense. The Spark Blueprint isn't a new thing. It's simply an articulation. I'm functioning as a reporter, articulating the future of human potential that has those 5 ingredients: shatter spells, picture the future, align your dual-pronged purpose, rise your capacities to actualize your dual-pronged purpose, your calling, and collaborate to amplify your impact with those capacities that you are elevating as part of fulfilling your dual-pronged purpose. Well, my hope is that at this point in this episode, you have signed on to a Homo Spiritus future, that's the future you want, instead of a Homo Machina transhumanist future, or investing in trying to make a regressionist version of the future happen when it can't, that you've signed on to Homo Spiritus, and that you understand that the symptoms that we're experiencing individually and as a society, of those dysfunctional symptoms, are simply symptoms of us emerging into a Homo Spiritus future. We're trying to decide, symptoms of trying to decide which of those futures we're going to align with. So after our upcoming break, we're going to return for this episode's final segment, during which I'll be providing you with a powerful way to get started on your journey toward a Homo Spiritus future through the Spark Blueprint. I'm Dr. David Gruder. This is the Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours show on the X Zone Broadcast Network, and we'll return shortly. Before the break, I unpacked ingredients to look for when you want to become Homo Spiritus, and meaning human spirits again. As I already mentioned during this final segment of this episode called Reimagining Humanity's Evolution, Accelerating the Emergence of Homo Spiritus in Our Lifetime, and that title should now make complete sense to you, I will reveal how I provide what I suggested in the last segment that you look for, how I can the resources that I have to help you on your Spark Blueprint journey toward Homo Spiritus. And I'll let you know how to access that framework, that wisdom, that content, and with a free gift, by the way, that I promised at the beginning of this episode. And after that, I'll share the big takeaway that I hope you will have gained from this episode, followed by my closing comments. So, how do I help the shift from Homo sapiens to Homo spiritus happens? Well, as you already know, I do that through the Spark Blueprint, through making that available. And as far as I know, as I said before, this is the only integrated, practical, step-by-step framework for human potential, for elevating human potential, that enables us to rise from Homo sapiens into our new desired Homo spiritus species, instead of pursuing regressionist fantasies or a transhumanist future. So that Spark Blueprint then is my version of the all-purpose, fully customizable, master once, use for everything framework for helping each of us individually and collectively emerge into a Homo Spiritus future. And it's all-purpose in that it can be used, it can be adapted for the purpose of individual development, community development, business development, reformulating our education system, reimagining or reclaiming what the media are supposed to be about, which is adult education mechanisms rather than propaganda mouthpieces, and utilized by the government, elected and appointed officials to help a Homo Spiritus future emerge. Why is this worth looking into? Well, because I am a psychologist who is an applied futurist with a range of interdisciplinary expertise that, in my opinion, is required to build this kind of framework for helping a Homo Spiritus future emerge. And it's one thing if I claim that I have interdisciplinary expertise, but you shouldn't believe me simply because I claim it. But the reason that my claims are credible is because of the categories in which I've received personal and book awards, in addition to having been named America's Integrity Expert. And those awards that I've received have spanned the areas of social change, politics and society, culture creation, conscious business, visionary leadership, health and wellness, transformational psychology, and self-help. When one of my books came out in 2008, called The New IQ, the publisher of that book said that he had never seen an author receive book awards in as diverse a range of categories as that book received, and the personal awards that accompanied that. So don't believe me because I claim this. The awards that I've received are what provide the credibility to believe that I'm interdisciplinary enough to articulate a next version of human potential that is all about helping Homo Spiritus emerge. And I'm going to say something brief about this next version of human potential. I've been involved with the human potential movement in a wide range of roles, from research to leadership to administrative to training, keynotes, et cetera, since the 1970s. And what I was proud of in the second half of the 20th century is that the human potential movement was focused primarily on healing the mind body spirit split. So, reuniting us into whole individual human beings by reconnecting mind, body, and spirit. And that wasn't meant to be the end of the human potential movement. It was meant to be the first phase of the 20th century human potential movement that, in my opinion, is meant to give way to the 21st century evolution of human potential, which is an evolution from mind, body, spirit reunification, which is important. We don't leave that behind, but we recognize that it's limited and needs more, because reunifying mind, body, and spirit is basically me, and me. And the next evolution of human potential needs to shift from me, and me to me, we, and us all, or translated into individual terms, the me part is our own authenticity, being who we truly are. The we part is collaborative relationships rather than compromise and coercive relationships. So that's the we part. And the us all part is impact. It's about our responsibility to, in our own unique ways, help society, help our spheres of influence, the parts of society that we function in, elevate into Homo Spiritus. So we're moving in the human potential movement from me, and me, which was necessary as a starting place in the second half of the 20th century, to me, we, and us all, which is what's necessary now in the 21st century to move from Homo sapiens into Homo Spiritus. Now, I'm gifting you with a way to decide if a Homo Spiritus future, if the unification of authenticity, connection, and impact of me, we, and us all as our new definition of a human that is greater than only self-transcendent, as Maslow referred to it, to decide if this is for you, and if it is, to get started. And that gift that I have for you is the first two books in my Spark trilogy. So my Spark trilogy is my new 3-book series, new as of recording this in November 2025. And the first book in that trilogy is called Rising Luminous. It's a modern fable for fractured times, because I have found that fiction makes it easier to lean into a new vision, especially science fiction and fantasy. And I'm really a fan of science fiction and fantasy. But of all the books that I've written and been a part of over the decades, this is my first book that is fiction rather than nonfiction. All of my other books have been nonfiction. So Rising Luminous is the first book that I'm gifting to you. The second book in the Spark trilogy that I'm also gifting to you is called The Spark Scroll, Timeless Wisdom for Transcendent Living. And in the Spark Scroll, it unpacks and reveals the full content of this mystical scroll that's referred to throughout the Rising Luminous Fable for Fractured Times, which is book 1. So book 1 refers to the spark scroll. Book 2 unpacks the spark scroll. And then in book 3, if Rising Luminous and the Spark Scroll resonate for you, the third book in the trilogy is Homo Spiritus Awakens, the spark blueprint to shatter spells and sculpt a transcendent tomorrow. If you want me to guide you in mastering your version of the Spark Blueprint, you also have the option of enrolling in a Spark Essentials cohort. All of this is available through becoming a free member of the Center for Enlightened Self-Sovereignty, through which you will get the digital version of the Rising Luminous and Spark Scroll first 2 books in the Spark trilogy. Those will be available to you as my gift. So read the Spark trilogy and then master what's in the Spark trilogy in enrolling by enrolling in an upcoming Spark Blueprints Essentials cohort, so you can become Homo Spiritus in your personal and professional life. Instant access to all of this is available through the following link, which is a link to activate your free membership in the Center for Enlightened Self-Sovereignty. And that link is becominghomospiritus.com. BECOMING, becoming Homo, HOMO, Spiritus, SPIRITUS.com. Becomingspiritus.com, and clicking on your option that you'll see on that page for activating your free membership in the Center for Enlightened Self-Sovereignty. My takeaway from this episode that I hope you've gotten is the sky is not falling, we are rising. It's time to see through the spin so we can realize our highest human potential by embodying Homo Spiritus individually and collectively. I've offered a version of the dream to rally around and a plan to actualize it in this episode. And I hope you've taken that on board and have recognized that this is for us as individuals, tribes, communities, businesses, educators, helping professionals, countries, and as a whole species. Again, access my gifts of books 1 and 2 of the Spark trilogy by becoming a free member of the Center for Enlightened Self-Sovereignty at becominghomospiritus.com. All one word, becominghomospiritus.com. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Reimagining Humanity's Future and Yours on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. This has been Dr. David Gruder, the polymath of human potential and societal psychotherapist who equips leading-edge leaders, influencers, and you with impactful resilience that makes it possible for humanity's most spiritually elevated future to at last emerge. I enthusiastically invite you to tune in next time for another spell-busting, uplifting, and actionable episode on how together we can and will build a better future for ourselves and for humanity.